We are not going back.
We say, we them people, we the people, we are those people. We want to be free. We gonna be free. Let's get free. Let's get free, yo.
Hello, everyone. While it is not First Gen Friday, it is Takeover Tuesday. We are here today to celebrate the First Gen experience as well as illuminate and uplift the Harris Walls campaign. So thank you all for being here today. We know there are a lot of places where you could be, but you're celebrating with us today. I am your host, your MC, Dr. LaTanya Reese-Miles, also known as LT, and I'm joined with an amazing assortment of first-gen homies, we're going to say, along with allies here this afternoon. And so first I want to do some thank yous before we get going with the program. The goal is to have you out of here so that you can actively engage with the VP debate in a little bit. But first I want to acknowledge 2024 Grammy nominated poet, journalist, human rights activist, and fellow first year graduate Kevin Powell for giving us permission to share his video that I shared with you just before. Kevin could not be here today, but he wanted me to say hello on his behalf. Also, on behalf of First Gens for Kamala, want to say thank you to our volunteers. Thank you to Bobby, to Heather, and to Bernard, who's holding it down in the chat right now. And then also thank you to my fellow planning committee members, Sarah, Daphne, and Kay. And also shout out to the Empowering First Gen Facebook group. So we are here today to talk about the First Gen experience, why it's important and how it matters to the Harris campaign. We also want encourage folks to start thinking about fundraising for the campaign as well. We know when you're First Gen, you're often first for a lot of different things, and you may be the first to vote. You might be it might be a first-time donor as well. So we want to talk about that. For now, though, I'm going to toss this over to my colleague, my birthday twin, Dr. Sarah Whitley, who's going to talk to us a bit more about the First Gen experience. Go for it, Sarah.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much, LT. And welcome to this super exciting opportunity to celebrate First Gens for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We don't want to forget about him either. I appreciate your time in joining us tonight. And I'm even more grateful for the time that you're about to make or may have already made to visit the polls to submit your vote for the Harris Walz ticket. You might be like me. I always say Election Day is my favorite holiday. And you might love going to the polls on Election Day, or you might be one of the millions of folks who have already voted, or you're planning to vote early in the next couple of weeks. This phrase gets overused far too much. I acknowledge that. But in this instance, it really is true. Your vote is more important than ever. And we're going to keep talking about that a lot tonight. For over the last 7 years, I had the privilege of leading an organization called the Center for First Generation Student Success. This is an organization committed to advancing outcomes for first generation students at institutions across the country. As a first generation college graduate, this work has been both personally meaningful and professionally important for me, just like it is for all of you. And it's because I believe in the immense talent of first generation students and graduates and our ability to influence equitable perspectives, strengthen industries, communities, economies, and our nation, which is something that we certainly need more of now than ever. To get us started this evening, I wanted to frame the impact of our population to really put it in perspective for all of us. Y'all, there's a lot of us. over half, 54% of currently enrolled undergraduate students are first generation. That's 8.2 million voters alone. That doesn't account for all the first generation students who have already graduated from college, like most of us, those who started and didn't have the opportunity to complete, those in the workforce actively considering revisiting higher ed, and all those 18-year-olds who are seniors in high school this year, who aren't quite in college yet, but they're on their way and they're ready to vote. While the data collection needs a lot of improvement, we also know there's a significant and rising population of first generation graduate students too. So we are a significant population in sheer numbers, and that doesn't even begin to represent our ambition, our talent, and all of our contributions. There's a whole lot of us, and that means there's a whole lot of voters. There are millions of first-gen students and alumni who are eligible to vote and need to get to the polls. It's really imperative. Empirical data supports that first-generation students who complete college go on to become registered voters, vote regularly in all elections, and contribute to their communities through volunteerism. So we need every member of our first-gen community and every one of us who holds a college degree to become a registered voter, and even those on their ways to those degrees to become registered voters. Our voices matter. The first generation identity is a deeply intersectional one across race, ethnicity, immigration status, sexual orientation and gender expression, veteran status, so much more. We've each had unique opportunities to break generational cycles, and our talents can be found in every industry and in every community. And we have lived experiences that need representation by elected officials that have narratives that can be heard by an administration that will actually listen and care about our success. But to be honest, y'all, they also need us. The Harris Walls campaign needs a country where first-gen students are attending higher education, becoming gainfully employed, and contributing to our economy. If we were able to close the college completion gap between first generation and continuing generation students, we could add over $500 billion to our economy. Can you imagine what that would look like if we actually exceeded continuing generation students? It's mind-blowing. In the coming years, over 70% of jobs will require a college degree, and it will be first generation graduates filling those seats. And y'all, we don't even wait till we graduate to start working. The majority of first generation students are more likely to work during college too. So it's of critical importance to this administration as it has significant implications on our economy, unemployment, affordable housing, and so much more. We also need them. There is on average a 20-point gap between 6-year completion rates for first generation and continuing generation students, and it's even wider for 4-year completion. We need leadership who will fight for first generation students and who will advance a higher education infrastructure, including support of federal TRIO programs, TRIO works, y'all, and doubling Pell that allows any first gen students who want to enroll the opportunity to do so and to complete without significant debt and to go on to meaningful employment that is not only family sustaining, but family elevating. With such large numbers of first-gen students and graduates nationally, we need an administration that prioritizes equitable opportunities in all areas, strengthens our healthcare systems, advocates for fair wages and safe working conditions, and so much more. We need first-gen professionals to use their talent rather than to be worried about day-to-day survival. I know the incredible opportunities and generational wealth afforded to me and my family through my ability to attend college. I have the immense privilege to hold degrees from 4 public universities, but these are institutions who need the support of local, state, and federal leaders who understand the value of college going, the importance of the Department of Education, the need to improve access, completion, student loan forgiveness, financial aid. We could talk about this for the rest of the night, but y'all know the story. Leaders who are going to champion the opportunity for all students to attend college, but in particular, first generation students. For many years, being first gen was seen as a deficit, and I say it is a tremendous asset and an opportunity, and one that we're all here to celebrate tonight. There are millions of first generation students, and we need every single one to show up, to register, to cast their ballot for a ticket that, in my opinion, is really the only choice in this election. So thank you all again for joining us tonight. It is such an immense pleasure to be in company with millions of first generation students and graduates as we begin a new era with the Harris Walls administration. LT, back to you, friend.
We're just gonna have a show going. I love this. I love this. Back to I appreciate that, Sarah, for that providing that context. And just wanted to also remind folks that National First Gen Day is November 8th. So this is a good opportunity to start thinking about how to prepare not just first gen students, but all students for the election. Speaking of students, it's my pleasure now to bring to the mic Mariah Cooley. Just a quick story about Mariah. I heard about the work that Mariah was doing on the campus of Howard University, HU, which I attended. I slid into her DMs and said, "Hey, Mariah, we need to get together. We need to work together." And here we are. And she is going to talk about the work that she is currently doing for the Harris campaign. All right, Mariah, good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Mariah, and I am a part of the coalition's team for the Harris campaign alongside my colleague Kai, who's going to go right after me. And so just some context of who I am, how I got here, and how first generation students. And so although I am not by technically a first generation student, my parents had me at the ages of 19 and 20. And so they did not have that traditional going to college experience because frankly, they were raising me. So when it came to college applications, filling out FAFSA, navigating what it would be like to go to a full university or college, I had no idea how to navigate it. Luckily enough, I was able to go to Howard University and create such an education in life for myself and got involved in the gun violence prevention movement. I got involved because in 2017, I lost my cousin due to gun violence, and I have dedicated my life to ending gun violence in Black and Brown communities and for our children across the nation every day since. It's clear to me that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are champions for keeping our community safe. And so when it comes to first generation students getting involved, our lives are on the line and we frankly have too much to lose. We have to make sure that we are mobilizing in every community possible and voting, talking to people who are applying to college for the first time and knowing that their vote is their voice. Because when you get to college, we have to make sure that people have, one, the proper administrative assistant programs to make sure folks who come from diverse backgrounds can achieve going to universities. Although I had the privilege of going to an HBCU, if I were to go to a PWI or a school that didn't look like mine, my diversity and my statements might have looked a little different. And so those are some things that directly affect first generation students. So once again, we have to make sure we're doing everything possible in these last 35 days to do what we can, because our lives, our education is on the line and we're not willing to let that go. And I will quickly pass it over to Kai.
Thanks, Mariah, and thank you all for giving me the pleasure of joining you and sharing this evening with you. I'm super excited because tonight is debate night, and it's the night that we get to hear from our future Vice President, Tim Walz. So I'm looking forward to tuning into the debate in just a short 45 minutes. But just to reintroduce myself, my name is Kaya Jones. I lead the youth engagement along with my colleague, Eve Levinson. We are a young team leading youth engagement for the campaign. And firstly, I just want to say it's been great to see a campaign invest in young people to help lead and create this grassroots and coordinated movement. Our campaign is truly grassroots in the fact that since Kamala Harris announced at the top of the ticket, we've seen groups organically, just like First Gens for Kamala, organizing, and all the excitement, especially from a youth point of view, has been overwhelming. One of the key facts that I like to note is for our HBCUs, we had students for Biden-Harris chapters. We had 5. And then post the week of announcements, it shot up to having 40 interest requests at HBCU campuses. And now we have over 60 chapters on HBCUs, considering there's only about 107, I think is the exact amount. I think we're doing pretty well in covering, and especially in our key battleground states. So I just like to first acknowledge the investment that the campaign has made in youth organizers, leading the charge, as well as just caring about what young people are are thinking, what they want, and making sure that their voices are heard. Something that I just want to acknowledge is I know that not all first gen may be young. For our campaign, it's considered anyone under the age of 40, 18 to 40 is considered a young voter. So I don't know how that makes some people feel better. That makes some people be like, what? But we like to say you're as young as you feel. So welcoming anyone that feels young to support and be considered a young voter. As we know, voting is a fundamental right, and it goes further than just this national race. I love local elections, and I believe local leaders are the ones that are truly impacting our everyday lives and making decisions on those. Young people bring fresh perspectives and ideas to the political landscape, and I believe that's why we're so important. And it really shows that when young people are showing up to the polls, they can elect the leaders that care about the issues that are most important, and those issues are likely to be addressed. So when it comes to the need for job opportunities and fair wages, along with needs to address social justice and equality, anywhere from healthcare access, affordable education, climate change. These are all top priorities for young voters. And for once, we have a candidate that actually cares about these issues and is listening to us and is actually making real plans to address some of the needs that we would like to see. So it's only our right that we're going out and making sure that, we're following through on our part and holding ourselves accountable to go out and vote. We're encouraging folks to vote early. And if you are already registered, you're already that person that goes and votes every election. We're asking folks to take it a step farther. And there's a few ways. I'm happy to share more with LT to get folks signed up. But there's a few ways that you can get involved in our programming. We have National Youth Phone Banks where we have peer-to-peer conversations, students calling students or young people calling young people every Wednesday and Sunday. And we have cool electeds that join, as well as other influencers and celebrities to just motivate us ahead of making those calls. We also have a Discord channel, which has been a great opportunity for us to build community. We are now launching our surge programming, which is allowing folks from non-battleground states to travel into battleground states, and we're supporting with transportation to allow them to door knock and canvass. So there's so many ways that you can get involved, and with less than 40 days leading up to the election, we're just trying to support where the need is. If you want to host your own phone banks, if you want to lead your own canvassing launches, we can help support in those efforts. I'll also can share my email, youth@Kamala-Harris. I don't know how many people are on this call, so I'm a little scared saying that, but please, we're accepting inquiries. We want to support you where we can, even if it's providing merch for an event or something along those lines. We really want to expand in these weeks leading up to the election. We want to be highly visible. We're doing a big launch around HBCUs at college campuses, and I'm looking forward to going to some of our HBCUs in battleground states and really being able to show the unity that's there and the support for Kamala Harris, and just the way that we're also supporting her and having her back. So folks on this call have already said, I could probably go on for minutes and hours of just how excited I am, and as well as ways that you can get involved. But I'm going to pass it back to LT, and I'll be sure to share any other resources following this call with her.
Kaya and Mariah, we know that you're busy, so we want to thank you again, and we know you have to jump. Please be sure to tell VP Harris and Governor Walz we said hello. I know you're just going to go hang out with them in just a little bit. Thank you for sharing all those resources, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Amazing. Thank you for having us.
For sure. All right. Up next is Alejandra Campoverdi. And one of the things I wanted to stress here is that although VP Harris may not identify as a first generation college graduate, one of the things that Alejandra talks about in her memoir is the significance of first and onlys. And we know that VP Harris has been a first and only, and she will be our first female president as well. But we've invited Alejandra to talk more about that first and only identity. So welcome to the call, Alejandra.
Getting off mute. Hi, LT. Hello, everyone. I already see so many familiar faces and names in the chat. I'm here to support, and I'm so excited watching Mariah and was it Kaya speak? I mean, I could see the campaign in the background, so it was bringing back Obama '08 memories.
Oh, yes, throwback.
But, as you mentioned, I wrote the book First Gen, and I've spent the past year and a half or so going to, now I think it's over about 60 colleges and universities. But I always stress that this topic isn't unique to just being a first gen student. We're first and onlys before we get to college. We keep being first and onlys after for many years for the rest of our lives. And the first gen professional experience is also, very dynamic. And I know that Waltz, when he was governor, passed, I wrote it right here, a free college program for students from families making less than $80,000 a year when he was governor, So even though they might not identify as first gen students, the idea of being first and only, of those struggles of having to work while you were in school, like Kamala Harris had to, those are issues around the American dream and social mobility period that follow many of us for many years. And so, the campaign, I leave it to them to tell you how best to get involved and the help that they need on the ground. But, I just wanted to join, like I said, to show my support and to stress that, when we're thinking about what campaign, what team really is trying to preserve our capacity to have social mobility, to have these opportunities, to see yourself go from being a Pell Grant recipient to working in the White House, or being in the White House as president, what that looks like, there's a very obvious choice for all of us. And so I know that I'm going to be doing everything that I can in the lead up now to the election, and just stress for everyone that donate, door knock, anything we can do right now. It really does make a difference. Last thing I'll say is that, I've talked before about a poll that I did when I was writing the book of first gen students, trying to get an idea of this emotional toll. But one of the questions we asked that I actually haven't talked a lot about is about being civically engaged and politically engaged, to kind of get an idea of first gen students, where they land on that spectrum. And it was over 73% were saying, I am so excited and involved and engaged in this sense. So we're talking about a group that is not disillusioned, that is not complacent. And we're talking about a group that is going to show up to the polls, and let's get them out there.
Alejandra, what I hear you say is first gen is the future, y'all. And so everybody else has to catch up. Alejandra, thank you so much for being here. I know you two have to drop off the call, but thank you for talking about the significance of first and onlys. And you also mentioned encourage people to donate as well. And so we want to remind people in the chat that we do have our own voter registration. I'm sorry, not voter registration, a donation button on behalf of First Gens for Kamala. So be sure to check that out. Perhaps Bernard can pull that up, but we've got that set aside for us as well. So look at that. Yes, Jay Hawkins. Jay Hawkins said, thanks, Alejandra. We are not going back. Absolutely. All right. So I am now going to toss this over to my mama auntie. What? I don't know. You need a special title, Daphne.
No.
No, not at all. My Daphne, who is going to talk about TRIO programs, the importance of TRIO. So take it away, Dr. Daphne Rankin.
Hi, everybody. I also am a very proud first generation college student, and I am introducing our segment tonight on education. And as you have heard numerous times already, TRIO works. For those of you who are young voters, new voters, I encourage you to really look closely at the issues around education in this election. We know that the very future of our Department of Education is on the line in many cases. Pell Grants, Parent Plus loans, all of those things are on the line. TRIO is one of the most important programs that we have to help level that playing field for first generation and underserved students. We also know that the Department of Education has been very careful in making sure that there are numerous programs out there, basic needs grants, the Anna-Peasy grants, really looking at underserved populations that are heavily represented by first-generation students. So I would encourage you not only to look at our national election, but also look at your state and local elections. Who's running in your state? Who's running locally? What are their stands on education? What are their stands on DEI? Look carefully at those issues. And as you've heard, we know that first-generation students love to have their voices heard, and they love to ask questions. So be those students who are asking those questions. For the amazing educators that are with us tonight, in terms of education, I encourage you to support your first generation students, get to know your first generation students and the issues that they are facing in your classroom every day. So we're running a little long, so I'm going to turn it back to LT, and thank you all for being here tonight.
We're right. Can you hear me okay? We're doing just great. Thank you for that, Dr. Rankin. And I love the fact that you uplifted students and student voices, student leadership. We had an opportunity to see that directly with Mariah. And I'm now going to introduce Viet Nguyen, who was a student leader himself. Viet was the founder of EdMobilizer and IVG, the largest conference for first-gen students, and newest member of the Harris campaign. Viet, I almost cried when you messaged me. What's going on? Good to see you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this is my second day. I moved from California to Philly, and I'm doing union and out-of-state organizing. So helping folks coming from the tri-state area to put them into local offices to get out the vote. As LT mentioned, I run an organization called EdMobilizer. So we build coalitions for first-generation students, alumni, and policymakers to advocate for policies that impact first-generation college students, whether that's food insecurity, homelessness, free community college, et cetera. And over the last few years, one of our biggest pushes has been admissions equity and changing exclusionary practices like legacy admissions. And we were so excited that yesterday, Gavin Newsom signed a bill that banned legacy admissions at private universities in California, which we supported. I think it really shows why it's important to have strong democratic institutions and representation that are willing to take that risk of dismantling inequitable practices that have been around for a long time. And I know we're running low on time, but I think what I love about organizing, especially in the first gen space, is how selfless it is. So many of the policies that our students are advocating for, they will not see the fruits of, right? They will be long out of college by the time these policies are enacted, but they're doing so because they want to give back and they want to make sure that those who come after them have a better experience than they did and don't have to go through the same hardships that they did. And so that's why I keep coming back to the space. And that's why I'm really excited when alumni engage with college students and what's happening on college campuses, because it makes the world a better place.
Thank you again, Viet. You better text me and let me know how things are going. Did you say you're in Philadelphia? I know you said Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm in Philly right now.
Philly, look out, y'all.
And unfortunately, I am still working, so I may have to hop off in a bit. But
I think it's for a good reason. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. All right, great to see you. All right, happy to introduce now someone who I consider like a little sister, to be honest. Fadjanie Cadet, proud Haitian American, by the way. Whoa. So many things: author, director, advocate, just mobilizer. That's what I'm going to call you, Fadjanie. Welcome. Take it over from here.
Thank you, LT, so much for the invitation and everyone for logging on. I'm so honored to be here. So LT and I connected a couple of years back when I wrote In First Place, which was inspired by my own journey and conversations with my peers who also identified as first-gen professionals. And the conversation revealed what we've talked about so far, right, on the call, the unique challenges and opportunities that come with being the first in your family to navigate corporate spaces specifically, right? Charting our own paths with limited resources and steep learning curves, all of those things. And as I sort of have grown in my career, it became increasingly clear to me how my identity as first gen profoundly shaped my professional journey. And I would say even my approach to leadership, right? And how I show up to work in my role as a corporate DEI leader today. You know, we've heard it before tonight, but I think first gens embody resilience, cultural fluency, and agility, all of the things that make phenomenal leaders, right? First and onlys like VP Kamala Harris, the ability to adapt, persevere, and navigate, I think make us invaluable assets to any organization, regardless of the industry. And it's also one of the most intersectional, as it's already been said. Look at us on the call today, right? But I want to take a moment to talk about DEI for a moment, right? The scary three letters, the buzzword that has garnished lots of sort of strange and severe reaction over the last several months. So as LT mentioned, my parents migrated to the US from the first free Black republic, Haiti, before I was born. And they both worked as public school bus drivers and made an honest living to afford my siblings and I the opportunities that they didn't have, right? A similar story to VP Kamala Harris. And they instilled core values of integrity, hard work, all of those things that helped me go to a public four-year university and build a career that I love and am proud of. But with that said, I think it's also important to say that I was often reminded throughout my journey that I was an exception to the rule, right? And that I should be filled with gratitude because the systems that exist were not designed with my background in mind. I think it's important to reiterate and confirm that the US was founded on racism, right? And as much as we want to believe that people are inherently good, and they are, that the current inequities in housing, income, healthcare, and more importantly, education are all evidence that something still remains systemic, right? And I think growing up as a Black first-gen Haitian American in a blue-collar family, it gave me a unique perspective and a deep understanding about the importance of this work: diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects of life. And so to claim that DEI is a mere blind redistribution of resources is completely inaccurate, despite claims to the contrary. It's about acknowledging the 300-year delayed start, the laws that restricted and in many cases continue to restrict access, the communities that were left desolate, the narratives in the media that influence how we see, value, and engage with each other. It's a strategic evaluation of systemic advantages and disadvantages, as well as acknowledging our current realities, right? And so despite the conversation, this work continues to be necessary. There's still so much work to be done to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion are tangible realities, not only in higher education, but as they follow folks in corporate and other professional settings. And VP Kamala Harris and Waltz are absolutely supportive of DEI work, the core values behind the work. And I also want to say that despite the Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action in higher education, there continues to be a lot of things that we can do to ensure that we're increasing representation and promoting equitable outcomes. And that begins with redefining the prototype of what makes a qualified candidate, right? Changing the requirements, broadening the aperture. So there are a lot of different things. And I think that it's important to highlight also that Vice President Harris and Governor Walz will make many of the jobs their opportunity economy creates available to those without a college degree. Right? I think for far too long, our country has only recognized one path to success, a four-year college degree, which many of us on the call have, including myself. But Vice President Harris and Governor Walz believe that anyone with skills to do the job should be given opportunity. And that's part of their remit, right? And the plan, not holding folks back and creating opportunities, encouraging the private sector to work with unions, community colleges, registered apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, all of those things that will continue to make an impact. And so I just want to reiterate the importance of the work and remind everyone to go out and vote. And even for those of us first gen folks who have been afforded opportunity and all of those amazing things, let's remember our parents. Let's remember our other relatives, our friends, our families, in the fight for continued justice and equity. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And yes, go out and vote.
I just want to make sure everyone heard Fadjanie say redefining the prototype. Is that what you said?
That is what I said. That is
Okay, I just
exactly
want
what
to
I
make sure.
said.
I just want to make sure it wasn't missed. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and just dropping the mic as you usually do. I also want to introduce a trio alum. Not only just a trio alum, the 2024 National Trio Achiever Awardee, Antjuan Seawright, who is joining us tonight to also continue the conversation about first-gen professionals. That's where we're headed, you all. So, Antjuan, thank you for being here tonight. And you're somewhere too. Are you with Kamala Harris right now?
I was not, but I have been doing the work of her all day long, and especially ahead of this debate. But let me start from a place of gratitude and thank all of you who are on this call tonight, because I think it's so important that not only do we strategize, but we organize. And this is truly organic organizing at its best. I want to thank you for having the vision, LT, to pull this together and host this. Look, in this election, TRIO alumni and students are casting a survivor vote in this election. And I don't say that lightly, because whoever wins in November, up and down the ballot, not just at the presidency, will have a large say-so in whether or not programs like TRIO live or die. And so we are casting a survivor vote in this election. And quite frankly, we are casting a once-in-a-generation vote, because for so many of us, this election, however it plays out, will determine the next not 4 to 6 years in this country, but 46 to 56 years in this country. And so that means those who come into TRIO programs later or have the opportunity to come into TRIO programs later will literally be determined by how we show up and how we participate. And that's why this call is so important. So I want to thank you all for organizing this code. Look, I don't have to tell you all what the stakes are. I don't have to tell you the difference between the two candidates. But what I will remind you of, when you think about what's on the ballot, forget about Trump versus Harris or Harris versus Trump. Forget about Walz versus Vance or Vance versus Walz. Just think about the policy platform that they stood for, that they stood against, that they advocated for, and they've advocated against. And if you look at the details of Trump's Project 2025, a 922-page document written in 2024, reads like it was written in 1944, but will have impact on those in 2084. Eliminating the Department of Education, rolling back the clocks of progress on things like student loan debt relief, ripping away health insurance for millions of Americans, telling women they should not be trusted to make their own healthcare decisions. And you say, what does that have to do with TRIO? Well, it has a lot, because if the TRIO student or parent is not whole, then that means the program cannot be whole. And so I think we have to be mindful of those who are representing us, not just at the federal level, but on down the ballot, because I keep reminding people as I travel the country on behalf of the vice president, on behalf of Governor Walz, on behalf of Democrats, is that the closer your government is to you, the more important it is for you. And so when we think about the funding that we need at the federal level, a lot of that's implemented at the state level. So we need to know of who our state officials are. We need to know who our local government officials are. And finally, I'll say this because I know my time is limited. I don't want y'all to give me the usher's tip. I come on this call tonight as a first-year college student, only a second-generation high school graduate, grandson of sharecroppers from rural South Carolina. Was not even in my parents' and grandparents' prayers to think that a woman like Kamala Harris, who looks like my mother, could ascend to the potential of being president of the United States. Forget about the potential of being in that role. And so I say that to say that for many of us, history is in our hands. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, but we could be their darkest nightmares if we do not do our part. And so we all have to play our part the next 30 some odd days in a wake up. I don't care who you are, where you are, what you're doing. It's important that not only you educate and motivate, but that you participate. It's not enough to get on the Zoom call and rally the troops if you don't participate in the election. That means we wasted everybody's time. And time is one precious commodity we can't get back. So I'll thank you all for what you're doing. I'll thank you for what you're going to do. But the next time we all gather, I hope it's on the other side of this. We've elected Kamala Harris as President of the United States. We've elected a teacher as Vice President of the United States. We've elected a good man from Brooklyn as Speaker of the House. We've elected 2 Black women to the United States Senate, and up and down, and 10 states across the country will say yes to women should be trusted with their own healthcare decisions. And if we do all that, I feel very good that TRIO will rest, rule, and abide forevermore.
Antjuan, how dare you come on this call and preach? Antjuan Seawright, everybody, founder and CEO of Blueprint Strategy, community college graduate, and proud graduate of the University of South Carolina. Thank you for being here tonight. All right, you all, it's just about to get hotter. It's just about to get hotter right now. So we are bringing to the microphone Michelle Seawright. Michelle, you've done such amazing pioneering work in the first gen professional space, particularly around attorneys. Of course, we know that VP Harris is an attorney. So we'd love to hear, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, madam?
You know, I loved what you just said. I thought that was great. I had something else to talk about. I was going to talk about like anti-discrimination law, but I want to talk about how I got to this country.
You talk about what you want to talk about, Michelle.
Because, like, you know what, y'all? When I got to this country 20 years ago, and I tell this story because it has been a tough year for DEI. It's been a tough year for inclusion. And Fadjanie, she brought the fire. So I want you to think about why you are doing this call and why you are here. Because I am here because I want y'all to raise some money. So let me talk about raising money. So I got to this country 20 years ago to go to college. I was an immigrant. I am the real first gen, y'all. I was the first in my family to go to this college. My sister and I, we were the first, right? And this particular story, for those of you who are from Florida, you might relate to this especially, y'all. So I am flying home and I'm flying from home, and it's January of 2001. And I'm going from Kingston to Miami to JFK. And then when I land in JFK, I got to get to Princeton, which, talking about legacy admissions, we can talk about that sometime. But Princeton is where I went to school, right? And I didn't have any money. As all of you remember what it is like to not have a lot of money when we go to college. So my mother, who was living in Botswana, had sent me just enough money to get back to school, right? So I'm good. I just have to get off this plane, take the connecting flight to New York. When I get to New York, I have to, I was like 20 years old, like take trains and buses and whatever to get to Penn Station to Princeton. And then I call my mom in Botswana and everything is going to be fine. So I get off the plane and I'm racing through Miami airport and I'm just like a hot mess because I just need to get to this flight. And I don't have a cell phone because it is January of 2001. No one I know has a cell phone. My mom's number is at my dorm at Princeton. So I finally get to my gate and there's all these people rushing past me. And of course, me and my first gen college student wisdom had my wallet with all the cash I had in the world in one pocket. And then in my other pocket is my boarding pass and my passport. So I'm there getting myself together, ready to get on this plane. And then what do I feel? You know what I felt. There is a brush on my side. And I look down and someone has stolen my wallet. All of the money I have in the entire world. I cannot get back to school. I don't know how I'm going to get back to school. I can't call my mom. She's on the other side of the planet. I can't get in touch with her. I don't know what I'm going to do. I start crying. I am 19 years old. I'm in America by myself for the first time without my family, and I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know if I'm going to get back to school. I'm going to get kicked out of college. My family worked so hard for me to get there. I'm going to get to New York. I'm going to wander around Queens. I'm going to starve. No one's ever going to find me. All of those thoughts, right? So I go on this plane. And I am sobbing. And the flight attendant sees me. And she says, no, honey, what's wrong? And so, I'm like, hey, but I tell her, I tell her that my wallet's been stolen and I'm trying to get back to school and I can't get back to school. And my mom is going to be scared because she's waiting to hear from me. And I start crying. And that flight attendant, she looks at me and she tells me, do not worry about this because we got you. And so I go and I sit down in the back of the plane and I'm like very dignified. I'm crying uncontrollably. And the plane takes off and then it levels off. And then the pilot's voice comes on the intercom. And then the pilot says, this is going to be a great flight. You know the stuff he usually says? But then he says something else. He says, this is going to be a great flight for a lot of you, but for one person, it is not going to be because her wallet was stolen and she is trying to get back to school. And I know if you were her mom, you would want her to get back safely. So I am going to pass around my pilot's hat. And if you could put any money in there for her, I want to be able to tell her mom that we got her back safe. And he did. And that plane raised $300 for me. And I got back to school and I called my mom and I told her I was safe and I was sound and I was there. This is why I do this work, y'all. This is why I am voting and fighting and going out there. I live in Michigan. This is a swing state. My mom is 68 years old and we are knocking on doors because we believe in this country. I absolutely believe in this country. The community that we have, the America that we have, the people on this call, all of the first gens, I know you all have stories like this. You have stories of people who put out their wallets and who supported you and who got you here right now. And so what we are asking you to do is to keep that energy alive. Keep fighting for this country. Keep fighting for the inclusion, to empathize with other people, to care about other people. That's what that pilot asked folks to do, to recognize that you're right there. You have this power to change someone's life. That's what all of us can do. So wherever you're watching this from, that is my ask of you. Donate that money. Go do some calls. Get to canvassing. Show up and show out. And do not stop until Kamala Harris is elected president of the United States. Because that is my dream and that is my hope. And that is my hope for all of y'all. Especially because we are here in Michigan. And every single day we get the ads. Okay, y'all? So you can go out there and you can do it too. And think about those scared little kids who are going on those planes when they're 18 years old going to college. Because I know a lot of us were like that too. So thank you for listening. Thank you for having me. And let's go out and win this election.
No, thank you, Michelle. So many comments. Your story is resonating with a lot of people. You said keep the energy going. But the only way we can get those ads in Michigan and in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, other places, is to donate. That's where that money is going. So please, even if it's $1, even if it's your first time, please do that. Yes, Bernard put in the chat, let's pass our hats for Harris Walls. All right, folks. I know you probably warmed up, you fired up, you ready for this VP debate. We got one more speaker though. Minda, I don't think I told you this. I don't think I passed on this message to you, but I came across your first book, The Memo, and had my entire team read it at UCLA. It was part of their professional development. I'm just going to say, of all your titles, first gen champion, and then just passes over to you, Minda. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your patience.
Well, thank you, LT, for seeing all of us. And you didn't tell me that, so that means so much to me. And that's part of the first gen experience. People are speaking our names in the rooms that we're not even in, right? We're speaking and we have the ability to do that. And so everybody who spoke today has dropped the fire. So I'm just going to add a little sauce on top of it so we can all move on to, the debate. But I want you to know that you're amongst the greatest. I know when I entered, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. And I used to think that I was operating from a deficit, that I didn't have what everybody else had, that, I was scraping and scrounging. I remember paying one of my college bills with change. I literally put some change in an envelope and mailed it off to pay the bill, right? Those were the type of things. So many of us, we take on these sort of facades, or we don't want to show people that we have less. There's so many things wrapped up in first gen, but I want to tell you that you come from greatness, right? You know who else was first gen? Our former First Lady, Michelle Obama, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, right? Former President Bill Clinton, Senator Elizabeth Warren. There are so many people that are first gen college students. So you are amongst royalty. So first and foremost, shift any and let go of any baggage that you have around being a first generation anything, right? We're the first. We might even be the only, but we don't have to be the last if we count our vote the right way. If we vote for Harris and Walz, if we show up at the polls, if we encourage our relatives who may have never voted or casted a vote. I was also the first person in my family to cast a Democratic vote, right? But now all of my family, they vote that way, right? So we can help lead. Our voices are tied to somebody else's freedom. I'll say it again for the people in the back. Your voice, your vote is tied to somebody else's freedom. The people that we don't even know will come behind us will benefit from a Harris presidency, right? She started at McDonald's. I started at Dairy Queen. Look where we are now. I'm a 3-time best-selling author. My book just got optioned into TV and film. These are the seeds that we sow. And so I just want to sow into you and let you know that your work is important. Your voice is important. Your voice matters. And in this election, it matters even more so. So don't be fixated on what the TV says, what the polls say. You do what you do your part, right? We know that VP Harris and Walz, they're out there doing their part. Now it's up to us to do our part. And so we hope that even if it's $1 that you have, right, drop it in on the fundraising link tonight, because we want to show up and we want to show out and we want to invest in the next generation of first gens and know that they have a soft place to land. And so another thing I want you to know, we're not just saying, hey, vote for Kamala Harris. We're also saying that her future is tied, your future is tied to her vote as well, because she also is a strong advocate for the Paycheck Fairness Act. And don't we all want to get equal pay for equal work? That's very important. I don't know about you, but my love language is my money, right? Anybody else have that love language? And so I want you to know that somebody is working on your behalf. And so it's up to us to do our part to be registered. And if you are registered, check your registration status so that there's no mess when you get to the polls, okay? That you know that you're there. And then also too, she's very, Vice President Harris is an advocate for extended family leave. And, you know, as first generation college students and women of color, we need that extra support, right? And so we want people who are advocating on our behalf. And so I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming out tonight. We don't take your time or your votes for granted. Do your research, but know that if you are a first gen or you support first gens and you're rooting for first gens, then you're rooting for Kamala Harris and you're rooting for us, because you're voting for each and every one of us. And so to Dr. LT and the whole entire SAM, thank you for seeing us and knowing, again, we're royalty and we're running these things. So let's get another first gen in the presidency. And so we'll see you in November at the polls. Thank you so much.
Ooh, y'all, listen, y'all. You have witnessed history tonight. You have heard from the leaders in the first generation space. First time all of us have been in the same space together. This is amazing. Please be sure to this stream will live on. So please be sure to share it with other folks who wanted to be here but couldn't be here tonight or just didn't know what they were going to miss tonight. So please pass it along. Thank you to every single one of you who showed up tonight, whether you were a speaker on the camera or you were in the chat. Really appreciate you. Be sure, like Michelle has said, like Minda has said, like everyone has said, make sure you donate. Again, $5, $1. If you could do more, absolutely. It's going to go to a great cause for sure. And then, of course, make sure that you watch the debate tonight and watch it with a critical eye and a critical lens. And Minda, just want you to know, I'm getting text messages. I'm not even getting feedback in the chat. I'm getting direct to my hotline how much you folks have been inspired by you. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, go out and vote. Thank you for being here tonight and have a fantastic night.
Night, everybody.
Everyone.
Night, everybody.